Good morning, free enterprise fans. Morning where a lot of us are, but good day to everyone else. We have ourselves another three-way tiebreaker in the Adamant Cup groups. This is the Lilith Rod group, the most balanced group, with Infinious, BadKarma, and Pyre all sitting here at 3-2 for the tiebreaker race. My name's Vatasia. I'm joined today by the man, the myth, the possum himself, Possum Orpheus.
What an introduction. Thank you so much, Vitasia. I hope you are having a fantastic morning. I am looking forward to this race. We have, I guess, not just the most balanced group of this tournament, but potentially the most balanced group you could ever have, where we have 3 runners out of 6 who finish at 3-2. Their colleagues in their group, if you will, finished at 2-3. Those 3 who are not here. So 6 runners entered, 3 finished at 3-2. Those are the runners on your screen in Infinious, BadKarma, and Pyre. And then the other 3 members of their group at 2-3. So an absolutely fantastic group to watch from start to finish. And I gotta say, I'm digging this start. Edge always makes me a happy boy when I see an Edge start on these flags. Zoom, zoom, let's do this.
Absolutely. You get at least one decent piece of equipment, and Edge just carries you through all of the early game. These objectives are interesting as well. The ever-popular Cave Magnus, trading away both the tails, and then we have 2 objectives locked behind the Darkness Crystal with the Vanilla Masamune altar and Cave Bahamut. So on opposite sides of the moon yet. This, I think, is going to be an interesting race for these runners, particularly as a tiebreaker. Now, how this tiebreaker is going to work, a little bit different than how the tiebreaker worked last night. Because last night in the Aegis Shield group, Night Dew had already won the group. So the automatic bid was already taken care of. And it was just whoever was last place in last night's race didn't advance to the final tiebreaker race. In this group, there's no clear-cut winner. So the winner of this race will get the automatic bid out of the Lilith Rod group. And then the other 2 will then have to have a second race next week.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a change in how you would normally see folks play, where you would typically be looking at conservative play in group races. Since this is now bumped up from a 1v1, I think you're going to see some very aggressive lines, runners looking to win as opposed to not lose. Speaking of winning, Edge with a Murasame, it's not a key item. Porum is not the best character to find with that Edge, but a Murasame Edge, do you even need to loot, or do you just go?
Well, here's where the strategy might play out a little bit different. I mean, I might do a little bit of looting, but I might also think, hey, I could probably take on at least a couple of those trap chest bosses in Evelyn Castle as well while you're doing your normal looting, because he can swing quite hard with that. So, I mean, it changes the calculus, certainly, and you're absolutely right that when you're in a group race like this, where the goal is to win over the group, it does encourage maybe some extra gambles. So I'm really excited to see how this will play out here.
Yeah, it's one of those really interesting scenarios that you're basically not going to see except for this exact circumstance where you're running win with no penalty for losing. So you could see folks taking some incredibly different lines through this seed, especially now also having a magma key. Looks like we are going to get all 3 runners, though, doing the public treasury. So looks like everyone deciding that a little bit of loot here is going to go a long way for them. A second grimoire is really nice to go with the starting grimoire, give our runners a little bit of kind of splashy AoE, as well as that Zeus rage. So very nice.
Well, I think, and this is kind of my line of thinking, when we get an early magma key, I'm already thinking I'm going to forego, the Eblin Cave check and maybe even Eblin Castle if I can possibly dodge it. But you're still going to want a little bit of loot because you need some money to sell. You want to try to make as many efficient checks in the underworld as you can, and hey, there's some great J items to buy, hourglasses, sirens, coffins, for example, that are behind those locked areas. You just need a little bit of cash flow to have that happen. So, doing some early looting, if anything, just to have the cash to be able to buy those in the first round, isn't always a bad idea either.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. You want a little bit of money so you can buy those nice shiny things underground. And speaking of shiny things, we have BadKarma finding a black belt for sale. We found a middle sword, I believe, on Pyre's side, and then a dwarf axe on Infinious' side. So nothing super great yet, but some nice items for all of our runners. And to that point of going underground, the other thing it opens up, you can go ahead and you can play with a potential siren in a coffin early on and really get some zooming going on with your party, where everyone all of a sudden has blink and has berserk and possibly quake and things like that. So a lot of different lines that our runners can take here. Looks like BadKarma is going to be the first to give us a real check, if you will, instead of just looting. I believe that was a Rydia and an octopus up on Mount Hobbs, and BadKarma opts to head on over to Antline. Doesn't want the small child in the party.
I can't necessarily say that's a bad idea. I mean, we see like an early Sylph there on BadKarma's side, which would absolutely make Rydia interesting, and a third Grimoire. I mean, why not? It's interesting the party choices that we have. I mean, having an early edge just really helps correct the early game, and then by the time you get to the mid game, you have a Porum who will know Blink and Berserk and Exit, who can really complement that edge well when he needs a little bit of support. So honestly, I really like this early game, and not necessarily needing anyone in the early game or the mid game because of the party you already have. That's when Rydia shines. It's the early and mid game. So maybe, yeah, you don't necessarily need it. You need to start building out your party for the late game.
Yeah, it looks like Pyre is going to take on this Octomam, so is going to be our only runner at this time with a Rydia on his team. Infinious and BadKarma opting to head straight through Antline and pick up a Sand Ruby, a little bit of vanilla, and a lot of bit of an objective. So I assume that Objective 3 is going to be completed very quickly for all of our runners, as they will want to see who that potential gated character is. Could be looking at an early Fu or Cecil, which would be huge.
Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic check right now. I mean, you mentioned it already. Even if it wasn't already a needed check for an objective, I think it would behoove the runners to go ahead and check that anyway. Just knowing that an early Fu or Cecil at this stage in the race can make dramatic differences, later on in the race, and make things a whole lot more efficient. So really like both these runners going ahead and turning it in. Pyre right behind as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so early. Pyre has that little bit of loot advantage. Probably picking up that Rydia because of a Stardust Rod that was found, to be completely honest. I think without that Stardust Rod, he probably leaves her behind. But that Eblin loot could pay dividends later on. And we also do have a Yang chilling in the bed in Kaipo. Infinious opting not to turn in the Sand Ruby, with it being an objective. I wonder if this is just saving Yang, but this is a curious decision to not turn that in, maybe wanting to route in the free heal later. Tough to say. But we also see BadKarma picking up a Mute Knife, and that is an enormous purchase on BadKarma's side.
Mute Knife and Edge can be very, very powerful, especially when already paired with the Murasame, so his attack power is already quite high. And then you do that for many, many bosses who are weak to that Mute Knife damage. The Magus Sisters, for example, Elements, while he's in the Rubicante phase. That can do some significant work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of things that'll do work, that's a random power shirt hanging out for BadKarma in Baron Inn. That is fantastic to find. Plus 15 strength is 2 full multipliers, and we already have a big hit and stick for Edge. That's going to be a really, really nice find for BadKarma. Meanwhile, Infinious says, let's go take on Ordeals, and finds a nice free boss That is the Water Hag at the Ordeal's 1 spot. So going to make quick work of this and see what's at that back attack spot, which can be particularly tricky with only 2 characters, especially if it's something like a Plague.
I really like the play of picking up, oh my gosh, a couple of free-ish bosses necessarily. I mean, they're still a little bit punchy here, but remember what we talked about that mute knife?
Oh my.
These guards are also magic types as well, so they just fall over here. So we're rewarded with kind of a back-to-back free bosses, a free Hallam if you didn't want that Rydia, and by the way, a Pan.
Well, speaking of annoying back attacks, I mean it's no Val, it's no Wyvern, it's no Plague, but it's everybody's favorite zombie dance party. We have back attack gauntlet, y'all. Strap in. It's gonna be a long one for Infinious. At least he's got Flame with Edge.
Oops, yeah. I mean, Flame with Edge makes this not difficult, but just annoying at this point. It's not what you want to see, especially when there's no real reason to be necessarily up here on Mount Ordeals. You know, we don't have a Tella, we don't have a Cecil yet. This is one of the potential skip locations without any other sort of incentive to be here, because it's 3 bosses and a cutscene for a single key item location. It's something that we might be able to dodge. Now, we may not be able to. This very well could be the harp, and then, of course, we need to be here. But you don't know, and we talked about routing and taking different lines. I could absolutely see these runners, BadKarma and Pyre, skipping Mount Ordeals until they have a reason to go there.
Yeah, without proper impetus to go here, Ordeals is just a long, annoying check. If Cecil never shows up in particular, you oftentimes just want to put this off. And again, part of this is our runners are not playing for second or third. No one is eliminated from this race if they finish second or third or whatever it is that they finish. First place is the only thing that matters in this. So seeing those lines that folks take, I think this is a very conservative line from Infinious, honestly. I think the aggressive approach would be something like what Pyre's doing, which is not clearing a lot of the overworld and heading underground, knowing things like a tower key or a pan could be out there. And in this case, we know, with BadKarma, the pan is out there. It's already been found through Baron Inn. So some of the lines that the different runners will take, that's really going to go a long way in determining their fates throughout this race. But I really like BadKarma's approach the best so far, and not just because he has that pan, but just in general the checks that he's made, finding those early characters, trying to leverage that advantage. Seems very good right now, and maybe Pyre having that Stardust Rodridia will help him do some catch up there. But right now, I'm really liking BadKarma's early game with, again, the intent to win as opposed to caring about second or third.
I 100% agree. He's making the plays to succeed. He's got what I would call a legitimate endgame party already, with the twins and then a couple of martial artists. Really set up well. All he needs is the levels and then the to complete the objectives. At this point, I think he's set up incredibly well. Infinious finds just a heroine robe as our key item, so no real reason to be up on Mount Ordeals. I agree with you. It is a more conservative play to be up here. Oh, and we have a Mylan fight. Is it? Yeah, it's Mylan Z is going to be in the underworld. So that's a little bit of a rough fight, at least right now.
Yeah, that's going to be a little punchier than it needs to be for our runners. Not really something that can be handled appropriately by the team yet, but something to come back to that will definitely be able to defeat later on, or soon TM, as we love to say.
Now, it's worth pointing out, and one of the things that I really enjoy, BadKarma is going to be able to route, picking up that pan early. I think When you go into the underworld, there's been some different strategies in terms of routing the underworld, trying to almost put off going to Stealth Cave as long as you can, hoping to get that pan. With the early pan, it's now check our freebies and let's get rolling. And BadKarma is going to be a little bit ahead of Pyre, simply because Pyre has not yet checked that Baron in for realistically our 2 free boss fights there with the imps and then the guards that are weak to that mute knife, and rewarded with the pan. So we could see kind of a definitive advantage being had here directly with BadKarma if these 2 checks end up leading to anything of significance.
Yeah, the pan turn-in obviously huge here for potential progression and just extra time. And oh my, an Earth Crystal. If you ever needed a reason to go back to Troya, I know the harp's an objective, but that is exactly what you want to see in BadKarma's situation, where looting has been minimal. Earth Crystal is going to be right after Fabul Defense, in my opinion. That is going to be the next stop. You go and you turn in that pan for Sheila 1 and 2. You defend Fabul. You go ahead and turn in the Earth Crystal, get those wonderful treasures, and proceed from there. Meanwhile, Infinious deciding the best way to deal with those guards is a Grimoire, hits Bahamut, because why not? It's either Chocobo or Bahamut, and Infinious also will be picking up that pan before he goes underground. So Pyre going to be the only one who's going to need to double dip Fabul today.
That could end up being dangerous. I mean, it's interesting. You always hope to route in the 1 dip Fabul. It's the dream of the free enterprise runner. It so rarely gets to happen, but it does get to happen now. And Elements, for defending all of the 4 fiends, have decided to try to crash the Fabul party. They're going to have a bad time here.
Yeah, it's interesting that attack from Karma for 52 damage from Yang, actually pushing past Elements perishing, tells you just how close that hit from Edge was. Pyre, meanwhile, using the Stardust Rod to great effect, and both runners getting through Fabul Defense at nearly the same time, while Infinious is dropping that Magma Key down and will start his underground route. There is a hook, though, so that does open up the Rat and the Pinktails. It also opens up a character check for either a gated Cecil or food. And lastly, but possibly most importantly, opens up the best shop in the game, the Eblin Cave shop, which will have 2 guaranteed tier 5 consumables in it, things like coffins, hourglasses, sirens, elixirs, and Bacchus wine. So that is a huge pickup for our runners early on.
Wow. And Sheila with the goods. Not only did Sheila 1 end up giving you the tower key, which does make the lower tower end up being more efficient, but Sheila 2 was also the twin harp for Cave Magnus, which is another required item. BadKarma is routing this about as well as any human being could possibly route this right now. It's doing Cave Magnus right into possibly, the Earth Crystal check. If you want to do that, I would turn in the Rat and Pinktail, since those are 2 objectives right now, and hey, Adamant armors. But this is going very, very well for BadKarma right at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the only downside to this is we have to do the harp check, but I guess it's an objective, so, I'll let it slide this one time. But yeah, this is all coming up BadKarma right now, and it's interesting. If you look back at this group stage that these runners were a part of, BadKarma actually beat Pyre and Infinious head-to-head. So actually has a 2-0 record against the runners on screen with you right now. We do have an art, was that an art appraiser? I believe Infinious was showing us from the job dwarf. So BadKarma, I would say objectively ahead at this point, but not an insurmountable lead by any stretch. With Pyre heading down this hook route, if he checks a character and it's a Fusoya, let's say, a Stardust Rod Fusoya is one heck of a catch-up mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, Fusoya by himself is, makes your other two mages obsolete, so you can, go and then make an errant Cecil that you might pick up, for example, doing the Earth Crystal, a lot more palatable at the same time. So we shall see what we end up finding here on Pyre side. Only one making this hook check right now.
Yeah, there was that little stutter step from Pyre, which I don't blame at all. But while Pyre makes the decision about Kane, we shall let BadKarma's Eddie make the decision about what tune he wants to play. Enjoy, y'all.
And we do get through that fight. That's kind of a rude fight for such a high magic resist area. Oh, hi, Rat Tail.
Something, filthy double. That is a rat tail, which is an objective from the Twin Harp, which is an objective. I guess we're just going to be chaining our objectives today. Scala Kitty, do you have somewhere to be this morning? Because this is a whole lot of required key items really, really fast. We are now a Darkness Crystal and a Pink Tail from Go Mode.
And here's the deal. These runners are wanting to see the Pink Tail before we see the Darkness Crystal. Absolutely. Because that means they don't have to do any excessive checks up on the moon if they could possibly avoid it. But yeah, I didn't think we'd be getting something this fast this early in the morning. I hope you all had your coffee. Because if not, I guess this Seed's Adrenaline will do it for you.
Yeah, and this puts Karma in an odd situation because you really, really, really want to do Earth Crystal. But do you have the time to do Earth Crystal? If, let's say, the Super Cannon holds either the Pink Tail or Darkness and Rat Tail holds the other, Earth Crystal becomes effectively a bad check. It's a really dangerous, really tricky situation, but the Treasury, 100% agree. I think we...
Rate that Treasury!
Alright, so rating that Treasury, Moonveil, I like. I saw a Power Shirt, which is another thing I like. Stardust Rod, if you didn't already have it. Tiara Rune, okay. I'm not quite sure
Eh.
how to rate that treasury. I mean, it's
In BadKarma's situation, I think it's already had a power shirt out of 10. Infinious will like it. With
yeah. I mean, throw the other power shirt on your young. Give this. He did not have a Stardust Rod yet, so his Black Mage can have a Stardust Rod. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sold that it was worth the time out of 10. I am sold for Pyre that Masamune is a pretty nice pickup from Ebland Castle Trap Chest. But again, it's one of those, is it worth the time things? Without seeing an Adamant armor or a Holy Sword for Cecil, and now this just might be me missing it, does that mean that even a Masamune means that was an empty or empty-ish trip to Ebland? I know that's very critical of the Ebland Castle play itself. I love the play, but I do wonder if that leaves Pyre feeling, I didn't get what I wanted out of this. Do I feel behind now?
Well, and again, we've been talking about this all morning. I think if this was a last place go home and the other two move on sort of race, like just play conservative and don't get last place, I think it would have been a perfectly fine play. But for this race where it's the winner advances and the other two have to have a playoff and you need to make some gambles, I tend to agree. I think you're going to feel like that was some wasted time. It's the dynamics of this particular tiebreaker have completely flipped on its head what you would do under normal circumstances, even in a 1v1 race.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And meanwhile, we do see Karma making this play up the Tower of Zot, going to give us our first check at the boss in the Magus Sister spot, and a couple of characters that we will soon have access to as well. Looks like Leviathan, which is going to be honestly pretty punchless here. The magic is intentionally low, so that the Magus Sisters don't just obliterate your party. So the Ice 2s here are not going to do much. Yeah, we can kind of let BadKarma just wash away Leviathan here while we get a reprisal of music. So I think this will be a little more music to our ears, and Infinious is going to be looking to put objective number 1 on the board.
So Infinious gets through that fight. BadKarma finds an Edward, and that's some good news. Our Golbez fight in Dwarf Castle is going to be a free fight with King and Queen Eplin, so that's some great info. Meanwhile, Pyre working his way through Mount Ordeals, which we know is not a fantastic check. And look who we got.
Yeah, we have one character named Fusoya, and one character named not going to be in this party, possibly ever, maybe even if a spoon shows up, because yeah, that's a Fusoya and that's an Eddie. And yeah, Fu definitely coming along. Just have to decide who Fu is going to come along for. One of the kids definitely makes sense because Fusoya simply does it better than either one of them right now. Late game, Porum and Palom will be better than Fusoya, but that is like an hour from now, or 45 minutes from now, or however long this seed takes. But right now, Fu is a huge increase in power. And we also are going to get a second Rate That Treasury from Infinious. So that's good news as well.
So Infinious is interesting in that his part, he's not taking on too many extra party members. You know, he still has the three. He has his Edge and the twins. Has not gone underground to check to see the Kane there in Evelyn underground. He's not gotten the Yang up on Mount Hobbs. He's not really done those extra character checks. So I can see him picking this up, and then we'll be very happy to see Fu. I think he'll still have just the one Stardust Rod, but still looking very, very good for both Infinious and BadKarma right now. Pyre finishing up that horrible Mount Ordeals. That's probably the worst feeling there, is going through that long check of an alt gauntlet and only being rewarded with a heroine robe.
Yeah, at this point, Pyre has to be thinking something along the lines of everything I'm doing, and keep in mind he's playing very well, is just not coming up Pyre. This is someone who I have gone toe-to-toe with on the ladder many a time, and I have gotten my butt whooped by Pyre many a time. He's an incredible racer, very efficient in his checks, does a lot of amazing things, but this is one of those times, at least right now, where things are just coming up better for his opponents based on routing. And we do see a Zonk out of the Earth Crystal. So the reward for the Earth Crystal was the Treasury and the Fusoya. A white shirt is nice, but not the key item that you really want there. So we shall see where Karma goes next. Whether we get a Rat Tail turn in, whether we get a Super Cannon check. But launching the hoverboat tells me that we are about to, in my estimation, get at least a Rat Tail turn in from Karma here.
I would think so as well. We see Pyre now in the underworld is doing this cannon check. I love this play. This will be our first check really into the underworld. I'm really excited to see what all is going to be at this super cannon check. And that D-Mist, little punchy there.
Well, when you only have 165 HP, everything's a little bit punchy. So not too surprising there, but yeah, that's going to be objective number 2 completed for Pyre. And yeah, that's as Chad is saying, as Rybon, our tracker, is saying, that is in fact a great place for D-Mist. D-Mist can be an incredibly annoying boss, prevents Berserk in a lot of cases because of the mist phase that it has. So yeah, pretty sketchy boss, but very nice place for our runners to find it. And we do see a Rat Tail getting turned in for a Masamune. That is probably, again, a worst case scenario for Pyre, because Pyre spent the time in Evelyn getting that Masamune, and our runners are just going to naturally acquire one from an objective to go with the starting Murasame. So again, Rando is randoing right now pretty hard for some of our runners, positively and negatively.
And it looks like Karma's actually going to at least take a drop off. I would assume he's happy with his party right now and not necessarily checking. Oh, is going to take a peek here into at least these checks here in Castle Evelyn. That's interesting.
Yeah, that feels very conservative. Again, BadKarma probably feeling like he has routed this as well as you could, and probably feeling like everything is fantastic and it's all good. And maybe thinking, well, there's no Cecil. I'm going to look for adamant armors, and this is the best place to find it. Tough to say. It feels like a bit of a stretch, but also, again, I feel like without that Cecil, you're only really looking for exactly adamant armor. So it feels kind of the opposite direction of what Karma's been doing so far in this seed and in this run. So, where Pyre's done this already, without even taking the results-oriented part into it, it just feels very different from everything else Karma's done so far. So a little curious as to why taking the foot off the gas, if you will, right now.
Meanwhile, Pyre did barely get through that top of tower. Thunderclaw Edge really kind of pulled a lot of weight there, but nothing there. I think it was just like a piece of crystal armor. Did not appear to be a key item at all. So, but does still have the super cannon key item once we exit this location. So that'll tell us quite a bit as to how much additional routing we have to go through. If BadKarma is wasting too much of his time right now, or is justifiably looking for last little bits of loot here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'll be interesting to find out from Karma what he was looking for, in this Eblin Castle dive. Win, lose, draw, whatever the situation ends up being. It's always interesting to get a peek into, a runner's mindset as to what they were doing and why. So we'll definitely want to find that out from Karma. But meanwhile, we have a rat tail turn-in coming from Infinious, and we are going to get to find out what this super cannon holds. Are we going to have yet another chained objective from this, or is it going to be something different? It is something different. It is a spoon. Do any of our runners decide that Spoonward is on the table now?
No, I don't think. I mean, yeah. I don't know. We're 34 minutes in. We're getting pretty comfortable with the party. If I want melee, I have Edge, Young, and Kane available to me. Who, I don't know. I'm happy with that. I'm not going out of my way to get a glass cannon like Edward. And with the spoon, he is undoubtedly a glass cannon. He will hit very, very hard with that spoon. The unfortunate part is he won't be able to survive even a nerfed Big Bang on some occasions. So, I mean, we know BadKarma absolutely will not take him. It'll be interesting to see if Pyre, if he does the Earth Crystal check eventually, if he makes a different decision at that point in time. Let's see. I mean, where we go. So where do we go from here? What haven't we done? Is Dwarf Castle, I think, the next one on the table then, realistically?
Dwarf Castle and Feymarch, I believe, are our only unknowns at this point, based on what our different runners have done. That is a very punchy Kainatsu, but this is a situation where you let him punch once, go into the waveform, and let him just sit there while you beat on him, drop down into that eventual remedy phase. So this is basically going to be one punch from the turtle, and then the fight is free. And then we know the second fight in Dwarf Castle is also relatively free. Being, I believe King Queen Eblin was the fight at Dwarf 2.
Yep, we did get that information from BadKarma a little bit earlier when he was up and doing the Earth Crystal check. So, yep, we took a wave, and now at this point, or we took a punch. Now we're just letting everyone go at this point in time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely the way to approach it. I don't think you really want to be dropping the waves here because it adds more time to the fight. It also makes it more dangerous. The wave is only going to do, a pittance of damage here, while the punches do several hundred, approaching 1,000 in some cases. So I definitely think Pyre took the right approach to this fight. And looks like Infinious taking out that super cannon room and getting objective number 2 on the board. And we have BadKarma doing some shopping and picking up some hourglasses. No elixirs, though, for any of our runners.
extra shopping, I think, just to fill in the gaps. You know, the Sorcerer Robe is fantastic to fill in for any of your casters, and hey, just a Cat Claw and a Full Moon, so we can, you know, get our best weapon for Yang and back row glitch our edge. So not bad pickups there either.
Yeah, definitely very strong items to pick up. That's double Cat Claw Yang now, I believe, for BadKarma, as well as that Full Moon to go with Masa on Edge. So Edge is certainly going to stay forever in this party. The second Cat Claw pickup probably means Yang is here to stay. Fusoya almost certainly here to stay. And it looks like we are getting the heck out of here, making use of that one exit item. So yeah, Cecil is somewhere. BadKarma and Pyre both have X-Gals, I believe. But Cecil is a hiding, and he does not want to come out to play today.
I am concerned that Pyre is about to stumble upon, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but I believe that Pyre is about to stumble on the Darkness Crystal right here.
I mean, it's at this point, it's a 1 in 3, and this is the most probable, and that is, it starts with D.
Oh, no, okay.
But,
I mean, that's still not bad to pick up if you have your cane right there.
Yeah, that does, however, mean that the Fame Arch is very much so required in this seed, as I don't believe we have another way through. I think every other check has been done. I also wonder at this point, has Pyre simply forgotten about Baron Inn? Or is this his choice of, hey, I'm going to fade this one thing and make that my forever fade? Because normally you'd see runners having completed that Baron Inn by now. So I do hope that he recalls that that is not yet done.
I mean, it may be one of those fades that, you know, you wait until you get the Baron key so you can just do all of Baron at once. And even though it's an early check that's available to you relatively early, just trying to be as efficient with that, just like some runners opt to save Fabul Defend, and as soon as we mention that, he flies right to Baron. So.
Well, yeah, 15 minutes ago, Pyre definitely remembered that Baron Inn was a thing that had to be done. So that's good. I'm glad to see that from a runner parity standpoint. And we do have BadKarma completing the tower portion of, Infinious completing the tower portion of his gameplay today, picking up his spoon. BadKarma going up to tower, going to complete his objective number 2. So all 3 of our runners will have objectives 2 and 3 done shortly. And then Pyre, once he gets this pan and turns it in, will end up with the Twin Harp as well. Chat pointing out Infinious already at 10 key items. And I believe BadKarma about to get his 10th when he's done with the tower as well, in the spoon.
Yep, I agree. That's going to make in this race just become that much closer. You know, both of these runners have kind of gone over each other's checks. It looked like BadKarma had a nice little advantage for a little bit. Earth Crystal ended up being only Fu. It'd be really interesting to see if any of our other runners fade that for that advantage, and then, you know, how much. Then the question becomes, does Fu save you so much time that it's worth a full Earth Crystal location check? I don't know about that, because you have already some nicely powered twins already right here that can do the work.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, because if you get to 10 key items without doing the Earth Crystal and you decide to opt for a full grind or a near full grind, you can do the work that Fusoya does in roughly the same time and have the rest of your characters powered up. But you would have to be some sort of a clairvoyant to know that that would be the right play. I love the Earth Crystal check when Cecil and Fusoya are available. It's just one of those where you're taking 2 shots at the 2 best characters on the flag set. There's a reason they're gone for brackets. They are that good. And I wouldn't be surprised at all, even this late in the seed, to see Pyre do that Earth Crystal, do the Twin Harp once he gets it from the pan. I think it makes a lot of sense. But all runners are going to be funneled through the Fame Arch. which definitely makes the Fusoya, at least for this seed, objectively a correct pickup. Fusoya would just accelerate everything that's done in the underworld, especially those difficult Feymarch checks.
Meanwhile, BadKarma is on kind of this rude Odin that we've been seeing. We have a Thunderclaw on Yang, so he's doing quite a bit of work. And then between Fu and Palom, with your Lits doing quite a bit of heavy lifting there. Pyre now getting the Twin Harp as well.
Yep, and looks like we have BadKarma making his way down the tower, while Infinious is about to collect his Dragoon Spear. Pyre now having access to both the Twin Harp and the Earth Crystal. I assume we're going to see the the Twin Harp into Earth Crystal play here, or at a minimum, at least the Twin Harp play. Pyre may feel very behind after that, and you may see something very out of the ordinary, like a splash play directly into the Feymarch, thinking, fading that Baron in, not the best in this situation, so might opt to do something that might seem silly. Pyre, again, a very, very good runner of this game, so I would not be surprised if his spidey senses, if you will, are kind of tingling right now, like, I'm in danger.
Well, worth noting now, after Pyre ends up completing this, all of our runners will be at that 10 key item mark, where the experience, you really are now incentivized to lock in your party and start ramping up the experience, particularly if you're staring down what would be an otherwise rude set of Feymarch bosses. And we see that's what Infinious, I think, is setting up right now. He has dodged the Earth Crystal. No, Infinious hasn't. He's completed Earth Crystal. He's got 3. What am I talking about?
Yeah, the thing for Infinious, he's basically on parity with BadKarma in the terms of checks, and is up a couple of eggs right now. So Infinious has really made a push back into this. Made up a lot of ground. Not having an anchor could be a little sketchy for this Feymarch, but we'll let y'all enjoy one last bit of music here on Pyre's side. So enjoy your third dose of music for the day, chat.
And with that, Pyre is through, has his rat tail. Infinious is grinding up and not taking any chances. I just saw Cure 4 on his Porum, Fatal on his Palom. Like, he's not leaving anything to chance with these levels, is he?
This may be Infinious making a play for a very splashy CPU fight, where you end up going through and you double cast a Meteo, one with Fu, one with Palom. You then reflect a white, you dart something with Edge, and you basically try to YOLO the CPU, but YOLO with big bad rocks, as opposed to YOLOing with Zerkers. So I do wonder if that might be part of Infinious' plan, thinking, I can grind now, make this play to save myself time on that CPU, rather than just doing a more conventional strategy on it. So also something that I would love to ask Infinious about. He and I also have played a lot against each other, and I do wonder, with us normally being in each other's brains on these sort of things, if that's exactly what he's thinking.
Keep in mind, that is a lot of levels. So there's White, there's Nuke, there's still at least 2 more levels, I think, required for Medio, right? And it looks like he just
Medio comes before Nuke for Palom. He gets it at level 50 for whatever reason, and then gets Nuke at 52. Couldn't tell you why, but that's the order it comes in.
Okay, that's right. I forget. Riddy is the one that Medio is last. Okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So this is a fully powered up party. Infinious is full committing here, and it looks like BadKarma is doing something very similar.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense. Knowing that Feymarch is required and knowing that CPU is one of the bosses down there, you're kind of planning for the worst while setting yourself up for success regardless. Mylon is going to be free for our runners. The Mylon Z down here is of no concern. It's relatively trivial. But this is a plan for, I need to deal with the CPU, and I want to make the rest of my seed free. How can I do this? So I think that's the reasoning behind at least a full grind on Infinious' side, and we'll see if BadKarma takes this all the way or if this is a partial grind. But I think we're about to see Nuke on Palom for multiple runners, which you don't always see on this flag set.
And the one thing about Infinious is it looks like his white magic casters are at least a little bit under geared. Not a whole lot of gear to really ramp up their healing as they need. This is very much a let's outrace the damage at this point in time. So it'll be interesting to watch to see how well this goes on Infinious' side, while BadKarma still on the grind, still looking strong here.
Yeah, the interesting thing for Infinious here is how does he deal with the anchoring? Because Fusoya at 20 is not ideal, especially with the twins there who are going to be barely like 23 and 25-ish agility. Edge is going to have to do a lot of work here. The punches are going to hit really hard. Porum has a white shirt, so she's going to be completely invincible in this fight. But it'll be interesting to see who ends up living here, because, yeah, that's a 3,072 damage swing to Fusoya. Have we mentioned this spot is punchy?
I've never heard ever in my entire history of Free Enterprise that this spot is punchy. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Never happened. Not even once.
No. I did not talk about it even last night. No.
Yeah. This spot's punchy.
It hurts. It really does hurt. I mean, but we got Nuke, we got White, we got Edge, who's zerked up. He's doing fine. BadKarma did not do as much of a grind as Infinious did. I think he's more of a melee focused group at this point, and that is just a Stardust Rod from Mylan Z there. So that is a big womp. Now comes that CPU fight.
Yeah, we'll see how splashy Infinious wants to get with this, because there's a lot of different approaches you can take here. The fun approach is double Medio with a reflected white. That's the fun way to do it. It's also honestly a fairly safe way to do it. I don't know that it's the quick way to do it, though. It might be faster to just zerk up Kane here, zerk up Edge, or maybe even throw some darks with him. It's tough to say because this spot also has 66 agility, and we are not well anchored in Infinious' situation. Also not particularly well anchored in Karma's situation. So this is a situation where Pyre will be able to pick up some time by having a Rydia anchor. But we shall see. Looks like we're getting a bit of a dose of rocks here and a Bacchus. So I think Infinious of the same mind as myself on how he wanted to treat this fight. Those are not the attacks you want from Edge, though, because these Meteos are not going to fire in time, I don't think. And this is not where you want to be. This is Plan Q gone wrong now for Infinious. We shall see if he can recover this one. Both Meteocasters going down. That's tragic.
The worst. Oh my goodness. Yeah, now okay, Edge is still doing a little bit of work, so you hope that you get some folks up, and then, hey, let's go ahead and cast the Meteo again.
I think he's going with Quake this time, just because it's faster. But yeah, that hurts. That was CPU being as rude as possible, and now this is just relying on Edge hitting things, and there's the Quake. So again, I think Infinious went for what he thought was the play, and CPU said, nah, not today. We're going to make you earn this one. And there is that Darkness Crystal that we knew had to be there in some way, either through the Luca key, the Baron key, or directly there. So Infinious will be our first runner with access to the moon, but every runner converging on this Feymarch.
And we are now a pink tail away from go mode. We know what we have to do. BadKarma will... he gets a Stardust Rod, yay, at this point. It's a stat stick, as far as we're concerned right now. So the question becomes, how do you route this move? I gotta think you start with Bahamut Cave value at the very top, because it's required anyway. And then the question becomes, do you immediately dive as deep as you can possibly go and do Masamune, or do you stop along the way to do the more efficient checks at the Ribbon Room? How do you go about this?
I think I'm looking at Value Cave first, Masamune Altar second, and then reverse clearing the bottom of the moon, basically going De-Lunar Spot, Plague Spot, Crystal Sword, and then deciding, do I want to do Murasame or not based on what key items I find. If you don't find the pink tail directly, you have to make that very hard choice of, do you chase a Baron or a Luca key should you find them, either one or both of them in those spots that you clear, and at what point do you save scum them? So that's going to be a very interesting choice that our runners have to make when they get to it. Now, if the seed is just, oh, hey, here's a pink tail at one of the required spots, then that's advantage 100% to Infinious already being done a grind and being on the moon first. But if it's another chain, that gives the other runners, Karma and Pyre, a chance to catch up. And to answer a question from chat with no pass, kind of getting into a runner's mindset here, do you do the top two? I don't think you do, because I think Murasame is a huge gamble. Maybe if you're in Pyre's shoes and you're playing what you expect to be from behind because of the pan fade, the Baron in fade for so long, I could see that being potentially a play that Pyre would make. I don't think that's a play you're going to see Infinious or Karma make. The pass hunt is great, but I think the Murasame altar is probably the last moon check for our runners. Also, hello Golbez, that's 37,000 HP of Golbez. That is going to take a while.
And will take a while. Now, it'll be interesting. It looks like we took a Siren here to pre-kill off a couple of individuals so we can control this fight a little bit easier. I like it. You can also do some other tech, such as using Piggy and Mini, so you can kind of set things up a little bit more in control, not fully in control like what Infinious is setting up here, but I like the play to kind of set yourself up so you know exactly what you're doing on Golbez.
Yeah, it is interesting that Edge and Palom are the chosen ones here. Palom certainly makes sense. I'm a little surprised it's not Porum, though, and that it's Edge being chosen for this. I would have liked to have access to either a wall spell, a heal, a white cast. The lit 3s here, I believe, still do in the neighborhood of 700 to 800 damage. So Palom taking a couple of spells here is in range of dying. So just a little surprised at who was chosen. I love the tech. Just wish it would have been Porum alive here as well. I know that that might hurt some people hearing that from me, wishing Porum to be alive, but I think that would have been a smooth move here.
Oh, and Pyre going for some interesting tech on the CPU that we hadn't seen from the other two. Reflected float strats. So the commonality there is throw reflect on one of your party members and then cast float, hoping that the reflected float hits one of the CPU attackers, one of the bits, so to speak. That way you can just launch quakes until you're ready, and it will not hit that one bit attacker. Unfortunately, it hit the wrong one, so it's a bit of a gamble when you do it. Either way, Pyre is through this very, very quickly.
And down goes Palom to that lit 3 on Infinious' side, but going to be able to get through this no problem with that zerked up Edge with a Star Veil. But Pyre has made up a significant amount of time, basically down a raising of the big whale and what effectively is going to be a Golbez fight. So a Pyre not out of this, where just a couple minutes ago it seemed like he was miles and miles behind, has made up a lot of time by not having to grind by virtue of, that dark tech that he put in. And we see Cecil hopping in. This is going to be huge for Pyre, who I think will take the Cecil. He did not dart the X-Scout, which is an important thing to note, that Pyre's still holding out for the Cecil. So I think that you're going to see Cecil in one of our 3 runners' parties, and oh hey, another Excalibur from Golbez, but that is going to be the objective of Cave Bahamut complete for Infinious.
Worth noting, BadKarma, I mean, that was Dark Knight Cecil, so he had not even done Mount Ordeals up till this point in time, had managed to completely avoid it. Both Infinious and Pyre have, so they'll see that nice, bright, shiny Paladin Cecil right there waiting, and with the Excalibur that Infinious just picked up, how tempted are you? Even though your grind is done, how tempted are you?
0% tempted. If anything, I would take Cecil as an anchor over Fusoya. I wouldn't even want him to get levels. That's how not tempted I would be to take Cecil here for any of our runners but Pyre, because Pyre has not done a full grind yet. I think you're looking at an Edge, a double Masa Power Shirt Edge is still doing 3,000 to 4,000, maybe a little more on hits. So I don't see a reason for Infinious to take Cecil. I definitely see Pyre taking Cecil here. I'm also hoping I get proven wrong, because that would be fun.
Yep, Infinious yeets his Cecil, and Pyre yeets his Rydia.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised by that because of the party composition. So Pyre is going to be rocking 3 high-powered Zerkers by the end of this and going anchorless. Infinious as well as anchorless. And BadKarma, for that matter, is anchorless. So none of our runners are going to have an anchor for this. Where this gets extremely interesting is the Masamune altar. What if it's Wyvern? Have we seen the Jerkbird itself?
We haven't. We have no clue where our Blarg bot is located at. My goodness, that could be dangerous.
That would be one of the all-time commentators' curses for me anyway, if I were to hit that one. So I'm hoping for our runners, being that they're all anchorless, that it's not Wyvern at the Ogopogo spot. It can be somewhere else on the moon, which would still be devastating. But that would be really bad to have it required there, because that is like, I want to say 30 to 40,000 damage Wyvern does there if it were uncapped. It is like quad nines and then some.
All right, Infinious, continuing to move on. It's worth noting, and I think you mentioned it earlier with BadKarma having wins over both of these two. While Infinious is in the driver's seat right now, Infinious's 2 losses were actually against these two. So the fact that right now he's in the driver's seat, I think, is a great narrative in terms of, coming back and almost avenging his losses in the tournament for a win if he can hold on.
Yeah, it would be definitely a great story for Infinious. And, well, this is not Wyvern. This is not much better.
No.
These Magus Sisters here are gross. They're punchy, and this is like the highest magic spot in the game, or tied for it. We could see some very mean things coming out of Mindy, especially here.
That said, we got a Mute Knife Edge, who is now zerked up.
Well, Palom survived. That's huge. That's your Quake bot still being able to Quake. Doesn't look like there's a Mute Knife anymore, or if there was, it hasn't been equipped for Infinious. But we have Mindy down, which is going to mitigate a ton of the initial damage rush here. So I think Infinious is going to be through here without too much extra trouble.
Meanwhile, Pyre's on his Golbez fight right now. Cecil and Fusoya are down. Did get a couple levels on his Cecil, which is, is fine. But now, yeah, it becomes just a race.
Yeah, and this is a race that Edge is going to win, thankfully, for Pyre. But yeah, it's a rude Golbez. Karma going back in for a second attempt here, as Karma did not have much luck the first time through. Oh baby, so things that would be great against the Magus Sisters, how about a Rune Axe from the Masamune altar? Thank you so much, game. You never cease to amaze us.
Sometimes I think the randomizer is sentient and has a sense of humor. And it's in these instances.
Yep, that was comical. You can't do anything but laugh, because it is very funny to get the thing that would have helped with that fight. Not for Infinious per se, but for Pyre in particular, Rune Axe will be wonderful for that fight.
So worth noting, as we're up here on the moon, and we have 4 locations. Okay, 2 Ribbon Room, White Spear, Crystal Sword, and then Murasame Altar. So there's 5 total locations right now. Keep in mind, though, we have 2 rabbit holes still left down on the Earth in both the Baron Key and the Luca Key. If you're going for the win, and you get one of those items early, like in this Ribbon Room, do you do a save scum and then run back to Earth?
100% on Baron Key. I don't have a good answer for you on Luca Key.
Yeah, that's where it starts coming in, because these runners, I mean, they're very, very close to one another right now. We've had kind of chaos up through this early portion of the seed, where they've all been running all over the place, but they're converging all within just a couple of minutes of one another. And doing a crazy gamble like that might make the difference.
Yeah, I think in this case, Infinious has established himself as the runner to beat at this moment for this seed. Pyre has overtaken BadKarma and is now at a minimum, what we would say second place. Again, second place, third place doesn't matter in this one. This one's all about winning. I still do wonder if Pyre were to hit either of those items, if he would still be more inclined, or if we also see Pyre do the thing, which is maybe go and do Murasame before heading to the bottom. So I'm very curious on Pyre's thought process here, and also now Karma's thought process. Does Karma decide, because of the troubles that he had with that Golbez, that maybe he needs to do something splashy now? Infinious is just chewing up this moon, going through all these checks. We now have a Mylon and friends up here in the White Spear altar after getting, what was it, a useless item and an adamant rock or a legend sword or something.
Yeah, legend sword, yeah.
Yeah, from the ribbon room. So the things of non-consequence were picked up from that ribbon room. And honestly, from the moon so far, no pay dirt yet.
Oh
And-
my. Ground Flyer with the 10 gifted subs to the community. I feel like I have to call that out. There's a thank you, Ground Flyer, for supporting the community by gifting subscriptions to everyone. Thank you so much, Ground.
Yeah, thank you, Ground Flyer. Absolutely amazing of you.
All right, meanwhile, BadKarma is making the dive down deep, is not making kind of one of those interesting checks up top that you mentioned. Pyre also looks like is going straight for that Masamune altar. So, again, playing it safe is not how you win these sort of larger races when the goal is to win. It's not to not lose. Infinious, oh, that's nice.
The pass is interesting because it does incentivize save scumming the next item you get, because if you hit on either one of them now, you don't have to return to the moon. So I think if we see either the Luca key or the Baron key from this Crystal Sword altar, you save scum that immediately now. If you see the pink tail, obviously you're done. So there's a couple of good hits here for Infinious, excuse me, who is about 3 fights ahead right now, coming up on this Crystal Sword altar. So again, this is Infinious's race to lose at this point. Early on, we thought Karma had played majestically. Pyre has since overtaken Karma. Infinious caught up and did that full grind. But a heck of a run being put on by all 3 of our runners here. And if you haven't already, make sure to give them a follow. All 3 of them not only put on a show before this tournament, but during this tournament, and will continue to do so for you. And well, Ground Flyer gave 10 gifted subs to the community, and this is Ground Flyer's wall. Not quite at the the Leviathan spot that Ground Flyer became so well known for, but still an evil wall anyway on the moon.
Meanwhile, Pyre did get through that Magus Sisters fight, rewarded with the very rude Runax. Infinious now at the nuke. So yeah, about a couple fights, and oh, that's a nice little shortcut there. I hadn't thought about that. Interesting tech, Pyre. Instead of walking all the way back around to the safe spot, a quick warp, and then back in and out, boop, boop. Yeah. I think that might save a second or two.
Yeah, I'd have to time that. I'm curious, because I'm a big fan of warping out of Masamune when you're done with it, and it's your last of those 3 checks. But I hadn't, thought of using it to warp within that room. But Infinious threw that evil wall, making quick work of it. There's an assassin dagger, says, nope, I'm good. Resets out, which means that Murasame play that we had talked about as being that potential play for first, the Murasame play was the play for first. Wild stuff.
I mean, Rando's gonna rando, right? And this is one of those instances where it seemed like the seed was giving us everything in the absolute perfect order that we needed it. BadKarma was just on a roll, and it was looking fantastic. And uh, Rando giveth, and Rando taketh away.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is on every seed, there's good plays and there's what end up being less good or bad plays. It doesn't mean that the runners made mistakes. It means that in this case, our wonderful Scala Kitty decided to roll a bit of a troll for our runners. It's like, hey, here's an objective on the top of the moon. Here's one on the bottom of the moon. Prevailing wisdom would be, hey, go chase this. Also, LOL. Here's Val gating all of our progression on the moon. That's fun. This is terrible for Infinious if he didn't have exactly that edge. So going to have to keep that edge alive here because there is zero chance of doing anything to this Val with mages at this spot.
Yeah, I mean, edge will suffice to get through here. It won't be fast and it won't necessarily be pretty, but we'll be able to get through here just keeping blinks going as best as we can. So, I mean, I don't anticipate any difficulty here because Infinious is very well leveled at this point. I mean, even Porum has over 2,000 hit points. Like, this is a very, very buff party.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what Infinious does at the end here as well. I do wonder if you get rid of the edge and pick up an anchor and just go triple reflect in Infinious's case. And maybe you hope that that anchor comes via the Baron key. That would be an interesting situation. To answer a question from chat about advancement in this race is the tiebreaker for first place. And Vitasia, thank you for putting that in chat as well. But first place advances. So this is winner gets in. Second and third play a 1v1 later on where they will be battling for the right to make brackets. But this is win or play again. No one gets eliminated here. And there is that Baron key from the Val. So Infinious may get his free anchor here as well as getting his progression. Things really starting to align well for him.
So we have that Baron key, which we know has our progression at this point in time. Which way do you go first? I mean, I think this part of Baron is probably one of the most theory crafted versions that you can possibly do, because if you go down and do the Baron Castle Throne, you can't exit out of there. You have to walk it out or warp it out. Or, you know, you can go up and do the boss at the top. So do you route this for a win or do you route this for a loss, or how do you route this to Baron right now?
I personally would have routed to Baron Throne and not the basement, and I would have looked to make my anchor pick up then. We saw what Infinious did there. He actually got rid of Fusoya and picked up Sid. I would have looked personally to route Baron as my anchor pickup and look to liberate first and then do the basement second, just as a way to try to save time. It's certainly respectable, just take that Sid and go. But I think that in most cases you're going to end up with an anchorable character here. So I think this is potentially a small bit of time loss, but in Infinious' shoes he can afford that. Little does he know it, but he's built up a fairly sizable margin now. And again, the race is his to lose at this point.
Well, and to your point, Rybon points out in chat that one of the only characters we haven't seen so far is a Rosa. So this is either our Rosa or our Duke. At which point, statistically speaking, it's probably our Rosa at this point in time, because there's a slight increased likelihood that we have two Rosas out there. So yeah. Rosa is a perfectly valid anchor as well, starting at level 10.
Yeah, Rosa would start at 8 agility, which I think Sid starts at 9, so they're effectively the same. But yeah, it's one of those situations where, I don't think there's a wrong choice for it. I just think it's one of those things where there's a couple seconds that can be gained by doing it one way or the other. I think Infinious took the safe route, which is getting the anchor first. But I think Edge in particular is fast enough. If you just put Edge in the middle, nothing is really going to scare you at this spot or the next. Even if it were a Wyvern, for example, you would be able to just get a Veil up and slam through it, or whatever it would be. So it's interesting. It's definitely a safer approach, but not having seen a .done come in, Infinious may be thinking, I need to go do something else, and that something else in this case is the Baron basement before liberating the Baron throne.
Okay, I mean, and you're right, this is routing for safety, I think, and not necessarily routing for, it's not as an aggressive approach, I would say. So here we go. Oh, this is our Wyvern.
So yeah, not Wyvern, D-Lunars.
Oh no, well, okay, we can't guarantee that our Wyvern is on the throne, because we still have a lot of different things that we have to check.
This is a bit scary for that Edge, who is just hemorrhaging health at this point. May want to look into getting a Cure 4 up. Looks like we're going to get a wall. Okay. Palom only taking 100 damage. Porum taking nothing because of the white shirt. So this is fine for Infinious.
Worth noting here that Infinious and how he has his current setup, kind of bleeding time right now, because while none of these fights are particularly difficult, the way his party comp is set up, I would call less than ideal for Zero Miss, and it's going to be kind of a slower, longer Zero Miss fight. Even getting through that took a little bit more time, and it was an Adamant that we don't necessarily need, so a little bit of a waste of time. It does close the gap a little bit, allowing Pyre to just kind of catch up here.
Yeah, and this was part of my question about picking up the anchor. Like, if you do that, should the anchor pick up before a swap with Edge and keep the Fusoya? Because if you do that switch, you're fully committed to reflex strats then. Whereas now you're in this kind of weird, like, what does your Z fight actually look like? In Pyre's case, the Z fight is everybody gets drunk on Bacchus wines and just hits things. In Karma's case, I think it's going to be a double Zerk of Yang and Edge with a hybrid Palom reflecting nukes. But in Infinious' side, it's kind of a weird one. Like, is this a darting Edge or is this a Zerked Edge? I think Fusoya would have been the more committed play, especially having seen Val at the Murasame altar. You were no longer worried about anything blocking you in the way of a mage party. So, questions to be had, and things that, I know we'll enjoy talking with Infinious about. But we are also going to get everything in this seed for our runners. Luca is going to be here. There is the Rosa as well that would have made a great anchor. And we're going to get this Luca key, which is going to lead to the pink tail, and we're going to see everything today.
Oh my goodness. So now it's a matter of Pyre. So here's the question in Pyre. If you do go to the upper throne first in Baron and you see the Luca key, do you go or do you stay? Do you commit to that gamble that you made in Baron, or because you don't see a dot done, do you keep running with it?
I think you hit Luca at that point and you just go down the cave and you leave a save scum, where basically you would save in front of Baron. You would dive Luca, and if it has nothing, you reset. That would be how I would approach it, because these runners are all good enough that you would have expected the obvious play to have someone already have finished. So in Pyre's case, if he does the throne first, I do wonder if we get that save, a dip into the Luca cave, and go from there. I also do wonder if Pyre is able to make up enough ground here. Can he pass Infinious with a faster Zeromus fight, where he'll just be going pure Zerk, and Infinious will be doing what I think will be a hybrid strat? I don't think this race is over. I think Infinious has a very clear-cut lead, but Pyre has been chipping into that lead for about the last 30 minutes now.
I agree, and that's kind of what I was getting into. And he's doing the throne first. I love this play. This is the play that Pyre needs to make this a race, because yeah, I think Pyre is set up for a much cleaner Z fight once he gets there, where he can just kind of let things fly and call it good. Infinious, we'll see, because even his current party comp with Edge and a couple twins, again, not bad, but does not make things quite as smooth. We'll see what boss this is. I mean, if this is Blarg, this will be interesting.
Yeah, if this is Wyvern, that is horrible for Pyre and horrible for BadKarma. If this is anything other than Wyvern, you're basically fine. But being anchored here could be of the utmost importance. We'll see, though. Maybe the Jerkbird is hanging out on the Giant and no one has to worry about it. Yeah, this is free. So, no fear for our runners. So I would say Infinious is probably about 2 minutes ahead right now, and that is if Pyre goes immediately to Luca. Can Excal Cecil make up 2 minutes? Remains to be seen.
I think that's the wrong question. I think, can Excal Adamant Cecil make up 2 minutes? Because we're guaranteed to get an Adamant from the Pink Tail.
That is fair. And Excal Adamant Cecil is a heck of a character. So I would like to see a save here. And then head right to Luca, but I do wonder if we're going to get that Baron basement check right now.
He's saving.
Dang.
No. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we know this is going to put the ball way back in Infinious's court. This is going to be tough even for that Cecil with that equipment to make up the difference on. I think Infinious and BadKarma's parties are close enough that as much as I hate to say it, I think Karma is pretty much out of this one at this point. Barring, I guess, a wipe or two from Infinious at Zeromus, I guess that could happen. And maybe BadKarma goes exactly thrown into Luca. I think the door is very, very rapidly closing on BadKarma, unfortunately for him. But he's not eliminated. None of our runners will be eliminated today from competition. The way that this is working is they are going to be able to win and make brackets, and the second and third place finishers will be playing again. So that is an important distinction, that no one is eliminated with this race.
What's going through your mind right now if you're Infinious, where you have just gone 17 of 17? You have cleared just about every single boss in the entire game. You don't see a dot done. You just now get the crystal. What's going through your mind as you're flying over and getting ready to set up?
That my goal for a 28 out of 28 is an hour and a half. It's 90 minutes. And I am very rapidly approaching that 90 minutes, that I'm just on that border of, if I did the same things as my opponents, how close are we going to be? Little does Infinious know that his little grind that he did really is going to pay off for him. We are going to end up seeing the Adamant on Palom. So that is telling me that we are getting Reflect here. We are not going hybrid. If we were going hybrid, that Adamant would be going on Edge. So I think we're going to see a lot of Reflect here, and maybe a couple darts from Edge. But Vitasia, There's a couple Z flags coming out in chat. I think it's a bit early for a nap. I mean, it's not even 8 a.m. for me. Uh, I think we have a question that we need to ask today, this morning. Time is weird, man.
Yeah, it's this morning. It's not quite nap time, but because we do like to randomize everything, we cannot put Zeromus into a random spot, but we do like to mix things up. So his final form does change depending on the seed. There's more than 500 different final forms he could randomly decide to be. So the question becomes, whose butt are we gonna kick today? I couldn't do tonight. Yeah. So whose butt?
I still give you a 10 out of 10, man.
like you have to wind up to a certain point, and then like, wait, there's no tonight.
It is tonight for Infinious. Groundflyer brings up a great point. I think it's about what 10:30 for Infinious, something like that. So this is prime time for Infinious right now. Yep, and the Starveil goes up on Edge. So yeah, again, I think we're just looking at a whole bunch of Reflect here. I wonder if we're even going to get a nerf if you just let this ride. Oh, and we have Gargamus. So what, Gargamel from the Smurfs, right?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic character sprite right there. Whew.
And we have a nuke coming out for quad 9s. That's a lot of damage. We have a counter nuke for also a lot of damage on that Porum. My goodness. Do we have a Cure 3 anywhere?
No, we don't have a Cure 3.
Well,
this is where it gets dangerous, where the thought that, maybe this isn't a gimme fight for Infinious right now.
Yeah, I think this is just fire away still. I think Edge is going to have his turn sat on, and we're going to life up Porum after this. I do wonder if this becomes a 2 Big Bang Reflect, or if this is going to be a single Big Bang Reflect. Infinious is going to have to push here, and we're about, 27,000 in? It's going to be really tight to see if this closes out, but those were some incredibly low rolls on that Big Bang. Palom can basically tank the next one without it even needing a nerf, especially with that Adamant armor, so I think Infinious is through here, unless something really wild happens.
We already got our shake, so it's going to be tight here.
And meanwhile, we do have the Pinktail being turned in by Pyre. He is going to get his crystal and be in go mode himself. And BadKarma making his way down to Luca as well. So let's see if Infinious can push that damage, and he did.
Oh, wow.
Infinious. Wow.
That was very, very close, but GG's to Infinious. 1 hour, 29 minutes, 54 seconds. Avenges his 2 losses from the group stage against both Pyre and BadKarma to win and advance to bracket stages. Meanwhile, Pyre and BadKarma are both finishing things up. We'll see if Infinious is ready for a quick chat here.
Yeah, GG's to Infinious. What a heck of a run, and I believe with that dinging in our ears, we are joined by the wonder from down under. GG's Infinious.
Thank you. Yeah, it's still sinking in, to be honest. Didn't think I was going to win this one. Especially considering in the actual group phases, actually, Pyre and BadKarma were my 2 losses. So yeah, happy to escape this one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got your. I mean, we'll call it revenge, but I mean, there's no revenge to be had or anything like that. You got to reclaim victory from your prior opponents, we'll say. And you are through now 2 brackets as the winner of a hotly contested Lilith Rod group. Going through the seed, you opted before the Fey March, and I think this was a huge tipping point for you, where you had gotten to 10 key items, you made up a fair bit of ground on your opponents, and you did a full grind. What was the logic behind that? Kind of take us through that.
I figured at that point I knew darkness had to be there. I figured by doing the full grind there, I figured that they would just make those whichever fight that ended up being in Feymarch, it just would have made that so much simpler. Just know, because if it's Marlon Z in the Leviathan spot, well, I'm gonna need spells for that, like Blink. I know I had a white shirt for Porum. Yeah, I just need to be able to do damage to get that through quickly. And if it was at CPU, well, CPU is going to be annoying anyway, but like one Zerk from Edge and then having Meteors from Fu and from Palom would help me get me over the line. That so happens that I guess the ticks weren't in my favor because I never got any of those Meteors off, but it was fine in the end. It worked out.
Yeah, that CPU decided to be a little bit rude to you, that's for sure. Going a little bit before that, even one of the questions I had was this Sand Ruby turn-in. You had initially gone to Kaipo, you saw the character, and you decided to reset out without turning it in as an objective. Was that intentionally saving the character, or was that just a
goof?
Okay.
It was an absolute goof. Like, I was basically as soon as I walked out, I was going to do the full reset, except I picked up the assassin dagger in the pot in that one item location. So like, I thought that's an upgrade to this poison claw I've got. So I'm just gonna walk this out. And then about 10 minutes later, I looked at my jigs and like, hang on, cure the fever set. Oh. And then I rationalized, well, I guess at least I've kept an anchor for later. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, one of the ongoing themes that I think we were discussing throughout this entire race was, the difference between routing when it's just one opponent that you're racing, and then routing when you're facing two opponents and it's win to advance. You're not eliminated. Did you find yourself changing anything that you normally do in the race, or were you just playing your game and then letting everything else fall?
It's weird because I definitely had made some decisions based on the fact that it was I made some decisions purely based on the fact that it was a it was a three person race opposed to two. Like that prompted my decision to just immediately go up ordeals as my initial gamble, and then because I figured that just if that happened. By going at line to ordeals, that I don't think that's a common move people tend to make, and it's still kind of within what I want to be doing anyway. Like I have a very powerful team at that point of just having an edge without starting mirror and like the assassin dagger, so I should be able to do that pretty quickly. Turns out there was an alt gauntlet in the back attack spot, which made the assassin dagger awful, but can't be helped sometimes.
Yeah, early on, we were a little curious on your routing, because you had decided to skip out on, like, Rydia up on Hobbs, for example, and kind of fade Baron in for a little bit and not pick up extra characters, and the Sand Ruby was part of that, of course. And just actually real quick before I get to the question, GG to Pyre as well, who did finish second place, time of 1:34.52, so get your GGs out for Pyre also. Just about 5 minutes behind Infinious, your winner this evening. We'll say this evening for you, Infinious.
Yeah.
But as far as that decision to kind of go against the prevailing logic of just picking up characters as you can, like, did you just not want the Rydia? Did you want to save her as an anchor? What was kind of the reason early on for that also?
Basically, my philosophy is if I ever start an Edge, I want more turns with Edge. So picking up this is something I picked up from Baka Shinobi a while ago. If I'm starting Edge, I just want to spend more time with Edge doing hitting things, and picking up the characters kind of goes against that. That's all it comes to. I don't even think I didn't even know who the character was on Hobbs, and honestly, I couldn't think of it has to be, I think, duplicate Edge for me to even want to consider taking that, because because in the end, like, really just gets in the way. I don't know, if I want to keep her as an anchor, I have to spend turns to attack her to knock her down. If I do choose to take her, then that's less turns with edge. So yeah, going up Hobbs was not even on my radar at that point.
Gotcha. And definitely, makes sense. Very sound logic. I'm pretty well out of questions for you. Vitasia, got anything else for Infinious?
Well, this is just looking ahead. So looking at the brackets, the winner of the Lilith Rod group is going to be up against the runner-up in the Dragoon Helm group. How much have you been keeping track of Dragoon Helm, and how excited would you be to face the winner of the Dusty Griff Rex Banner in your first match immediately?
I can't complain too much anyway. Like if I do get Dusty, it'd be a rematch of the quarterfinal of the Lilith League, and I think so. I'd like to again, I guess recurring theme, get my two wins back there. And if I get Rex, that's gonna be a fun race as well. So I can't be upset either way.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Good luck and GG's to yourself, Infinious, winner officially of the Lilith Rod group, and congratulations one last time.
Thank you. Thank you to both. Yeah, thank you. Thank you to both Possum and Invitation for doing comms. Thank you, Arrival, for doing tracking. Thank you to Scarlet Kitty for doing restreaming, and also, and again, thank you everyone for being able to at least accommodate my my time zone to be able to at least participate in this. It's kind of awkward that but I'm happy to be here, and look forward to the brackets.
Alright, GG's one more time for Infinious, and I believe we are now joined by our second place finisher, Pyre. GG's at 134.52. Not quite pulling out the win, but you're still alive. Walk us through kind of the very end there.
GG's, thank you. Yeah, the end has always been the struggle I've had on this particular flight set, because you have one key item left and then a billion checks to do still. So having to full clear the moon to get that Baron key, which is the only way forward. Then trying both Barons. I tried the throne first because it would walk me out, and there was roughly 33% chance of the actual key item I needed there. So I was trying to save time there, but ended up costing me and having to walk back into the basement just to get the Adamant, and then all the way back through Luca. Just a slow end.
Yeah, and it was looking very close. I hope you go back and watch the restream. It almost looked like it would be coming down to the wire if instead of opting to do that Baron Castle basement throw and you went right and followed the Luca key. We were kind of cheering for you to do that, because that would have made things much closer. I don't know if it's a full 5 minutes closer, but it might have been. It was very, very tight there at the end, and while for a lot of the race it looked like you were doing some other stuff, you really came storming back there at the end.
Yeah, I think Greed got wasted a bunch of time doing Evelyn and Evelyn Cave, which I really didn't need, which probably is 5 minutes right there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Pyre about your feeling when you did Baron in. You got the pan, you got the Earth Crystal and the Harp. What was your thought when you went up to do that check? I think around about the 25 or 30 minute mark. What was your mindset at that point? Like, did you think you had to do anything frisky to maybe catch up? Did you feel behind? Did you still feel fine? Where were you at that point in the race, mentally?
I felt just a tiny bit behind at that particular point, because it was just the Bay March left and I did everything else, and since this is pretty high, most of the time we have to do those checks anyway. But I did meant to do the Baron in check earlier when I was heading back down to the underground, but forgot to do it and autopiloted to, I think, Tower at that point, and then had to swing around and get it. But wasn't really happy to see the pan there, because that means I'd have to double dip everything, and I could have avoided it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we noticed that when you were darting everything to get through that CPU, you specifically held on to the Excalibur. That was the one thing you didn't dart. Was that for exactly a Lunar Cecil at that point, if he happened to show up, or was it just to save an extra dart for a potential moon boss or some combination thereof?
A little of both. By the time I got to chucking the XCal of everything else, the CPU was pretty much dead, so I didn't want to waste it just in case for a Lunar Cecil. Since I had Bacchus and an Hourglass and two Sirens, if there was one up there, a quick Gold Dragon Witch happened. Get him up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And as far as the party composition was concerned for you, you were very Zerker heavy compared to Infinious and Karma, going with, I believe it was Kane, Edge, Cecil, and then a Fusoya. Uh, is that kind of your modus operandi on this flag set, where you like to be heavy Zerker, or you like to play what the seed gives you? What's your kind of thoughts on that?
For this particular one, I try to be heavy Zerker with the T Wildish because you can get a lot of good weapons and get everybody going quickly if you get lucky, or somewhat lucky. And Bacchus is freely available, and you got a ton of money to buy a bunch of Bacchuses. So yeah, this is my preferred comp, or something that gives you a lot of stuff early.
Definitely makes sense. Vitasia, I apologize for hogging the mic with Pyre. Any questions for our second place finisher today?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's any questions. You're not necessarily eliminated right now. You're going to have the final rematch between yourself and BadKarma here for the final spot. Uh, are you going? How much are you going to go back and look through now two races in the same flag set that you have against BadKarma, this one and then the previous one, and use that to kind of inform you as you're going through, or when's the third race? Because everything coming out of this group so far has been super hype, and I don't want to miss it.
I'm not sure if we still have to set up the next race, but I'll probably watch this one back. But I tend to not play around other people's habits. I usually try to do what I think is best in that particular time period. So I'll look and see if anybody did anything that I didn't do, or things of that nature. But I usually don't play off other people's tendencies.
All right. Well, that I think probably sums up our questions for you today, so we can let you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Uh, any final thoughts on the race today, Pyre, before we let you go enjoy the rest of your day?
Nope, I've got nothing. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, GG's again, Pyre. Very well run. And we hope to see you in Bad Karma soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. Have a good day.
You too. All right, folks. Well, that was Pyre, our second place finisher today, and we will see if we can get Bad Karma in for an interview as well. Uh, our third place finisher, but certainly not least, if you will. And I think with that dinging in our ear, we are joined by Bad Karma. GG's to you.
Hey, that was something.
Yeah, we appreciate the world tour that you gave us.
Yeah, I felt really good about that early game, and then once I got to the moon, I started feeling worse and worse. My only hope, I really felt like, was that I was the only one who faded ordeals, and there was a chain. And I learned in the race room that that was not the case, and later eventually that was not the case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your early game. Oh, go ahead, Vatasia.
No, I mean, I think we're both going to say the same thing. The early game, it really did feel like you were well ahead.
Yeah.
Fading ordeals felt really good. It was just a heroin robe. I think the difference for Infinious was he was the only one that went and got that Fusoya relatively early from the Earth Crystal, and that just helped propel him quite a bit further. I think you had put off the Earth Crystal quite a bit, and that that led to some other things going on as well. But it was looking very close, and every decision you were making just led to exactly what was going on. And then Scala decided to troll us all with with that moon, and knowing that just about everyone last locationed that Baron key, which was the required chain we needed to get to.
Yeah, I was really hoping Pink was going to be there on the Odin throne, and it wasn't. Um, I felt really good getting that pan right off of the Baron Inn, and then chaining all that in. So I think I had Fu at least around the 25-minute mark, but we just I think in the race room we decided Pyre and I both looted Evelyn in some form or fashion, whether it was Evelyn Cave or Evelyn Castle, and Infinious didn't, and that's where definitely a lot of the time was probably lost. And then that wipe to Golbez really hurt me, I think, a lot too. Um, there's at least a minute or so lost. So, and then my CPU fight was really not that good.
Yeah, one of the things we had speculated, and one of the things I'm always curious about with how your early game went, and I mean, you were absolutely decimating the early game. I was surprised at the Eblin Castle play from you because it felt like it was taking your foot off the accelerator. Um, and I think that's where Infinious ended up catching you.
Hmm.
And then Pyre, with that Golbez wipe that you alluded to, kind of caught up to you at that point. But I think you were, very much so on an even level with both of them. So, even though you may have finished third today, I know that you had wins over both of them in the regular group stage. And I would say to definitely take a lot of that with you, that you played extraordinarily well. Randoed a little bit today, but nothing to be ashamed of in your run at all. CPU fight might not have been perfect, a Golbez fight might not have been perfect, but you still as a whole played extraordinarily well.
Yeah, and I do feel really good overall in this matchup. Like, the wins against Infinious and Pyre both came down to Rando's gonna rando, and then just making a fade check or something like that. I think I actually faded ordeals against Pyre as well, and that one did pay off. Because that was a chain that took, I can't remember, one of them ordeals. So I've been actually fading ordeals until I see the Cecil in this flag set, or until I have to go there, or it really makes a little bit more sense. So even when I saw the Cecil on the moon, I was like, oh man, if it's ordeals and they found a crystal sword to Cecil, I am not doing well at all here. So that's when I started to sweat a little. Otherwise, up until that point, that Golbez wipe really made me sweat, and that's when you could probably see it too in some of my routing. Like some of the inputs start to break down a little bit because I'm like, oh man, where is this pigtail?
Yeah, that absolutely all makes sense. The routing gets especially interesting in a situation like this where it's play to win, as opposed to playing to not lose, like a lot of the other tiebreakers will be. So going forward, with you and Pyre being the two remaining for Lilith Rod to decide who potentially moves on. Where do y'all plan, or rather, when do y'all plan, if you have any idea of playing? And, relatively, when do you think we'd be able to catch y'all? Because I definitely want to be a spectator for that one.
Well, I can tell you which day it won't be. Pyre and I haven't talked yet. I can tell you it won't be Wednesday because I'm usually busy on Wednesdays. But I'm already itching, to play. So maybe we'll get something Tuesday. We'll just see what our schedules look like. Pyre and I, we played really early. I think actually we were the first match in Lilith Rod, or at least the first scheduled one. So our schedules line up really well. So we'll definitely see probably like an 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. match somewhere probably this week. Maybe Tuesday, maybe Thursday. We'll see what our schedules look like.
Excellent, excellent. Happy to hear that we get some more prime time for Enterprise between two great runners. So that's always exciting.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This has been a fantastic group. If you have not seen these races, just with the parity of 3-3-2s, and 3-2-3s, every match has just been fantastic to watch, and I'm really proud to be a part of Lilith Run Group on this one.
Absolutely. Well, we have been happy to have you today. A fantastic job, running for yourself and for our pleasure. And just wanted to thank you one last time and wish you GG's one last time. And Vitasia, you have anything else for BadKarma before we let him enjoy the rest of his Sunday?
No, just GG's to you. Ran a fantastic race. Really looking forward to the follow-up race. It's all of your races have been tight, and just uh, this is round 3 between you and Pyre, so it's gonna be fuego for sure.
Yeah, and we split, so it's just like a bracket round, right? But thank you, Vatasia and Possum, for doing commentary, Ryben for doing tracking, Scala Kitty for doing the restream. We know it was early, but we wanted to make sure we were able to fit Infinious' schedule. So it was really great that we could, get this in and work with Infin to get this race in on his time as well. So really glad we were able to pull this one together. But yeah, this is sorry for it being so early, but hey, thank you guys for waking up with us, and we were able to put on a good show.
Absolutely. One last GG's, of course, to all of our runners, BadKarma, Pyre, and Infinious, putting on one heck of a race for us. What is for a lot of our community early Sunday morning, but in the afternoon, evening for other folks. So GG's to them. Also, a big shout out to our crew behind the scenes who also up and early doing all sorts of work. Rybon for pushing the buttons, Scala Kitty for getting the restream set up and rolling the seed, and of course, my wonderful co-commentator, Possum Orpheus. It's always fun working with you, man.
Absolutely, is Vitasia. I hope we get to do this again sooner rather than later. And one last huge shout out to all of our runners today, Infinious, BadKarma, and Pyre. If you haven't given them a follow, go ahead and do so already. And like Karma, like Vitasia said, in particular, huge shout out to Rybon. Having had to track one of these 3-player tiebreaker races already, this ain't easy. So thank you especially to Rybon for making those buttons all light up. And Scala, of course, your behind the scenes work, all the work you do for the free enterprise community is greatly appreciated. But y'all might have thought, who would possibly be playing free enterprise at this hour of the day on a Sunday? Well, it's that time of year. Free enterprise never sleeps. So we have some folks who are live now who we're going to raid over to. But before we do that, we do want to tell you about some upcoming matches. We have at 3 o'clock today, back here on Free Enterprise, a match between Tybalt and Alchemy. And then at, I believe, 8 o'clock, we have Zilch versus Gemini Hero. Both of those going to be fantastic matches to look forward to. And there are, I think, another 4 or 5 matches off stream as well, where spoiler logs will, or not spoiler logs, but spoiler channels for chatting will be placed in the Discord, and y'all can watch along as friends. So yeah, join the Discord join the Discord. Words are hard, y'all, for the watch parties, as Scala is saying. Yeah, Vitasia, it was an absolute pleasure, man. Always love working with you. And yeah, that's all I got for today before we head on over to, I think it's Classic Smooth, I believe we're going to be raiding over to, who is doing some free enterprise.
Yeah, Classic Smooth, I think a relatively new member of the community, so let's make sure to show Classic a little bit of love, doing some free enterprise fun. Remember, do not spoil the race if you possibly can, but thanks everyone, and we'll see you at the next race.